Let's continue getting reaction on that 70 billion rand IMF loan. I'm now joined by Alex Mashilo. He's the SACP National Spokesperson. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. What's the SACP's position on that loan?
We had several meetings in the alliance, at the level of the alliance political cause. To start with, as the SACP, we were not happy with the way the announcement of South Africa going to the IMF was made. We didn't know anything about it, and we were worried about the IMF's track record on the African continent as well as in Latin America. We did not want South Africa to take a loan that will take away our democratic national sovereignty. And secondly, we are very worried about the country accumulating foreign currency denominated debt, because that will take away our monetary policy sovereignty. But at the end of the engagements in the alliance, the SACP should not accept any international finance that will take away our democratic national sovereignty and interfere with our policy making.
Okay, so you've had those discussions and then you've changed your mind about it. What further discussions would you hope to have with the governing party about this loan going forward?
We did not necessarily change our mind about it. You will take note of the fact that this is not a balance of payments crisis loan, which comes with strings attached in the form of a full IMF economic program. That is not the one. So this one is intended to intervene in the coronavirus situation that we are facing. However, we did warn very strongly against South Africa must address, and nothing works out, only then go to international. But finally, what happened is that we agreed on fundamental principles to protect our democracy.
All right. So that's been a complaint that's come up with a number of political parties saying that we don't want to lose sovereignty, we don't want to go to institutions like the IMF. Treasury in response saying that the IMF, the World Bank and the like are a way of getting cheap money, as South Africa can't afford to go to capital markets because of the downgrades. We've left the WIGB index. So what are some of the solutions that SACP might have going forward about how to manage the economic crisis that South Africa finds itself in and will probably be in for the foreseeable future?
Most countries that found themselves in an IMF worsened crisis went to the IMF because they believed that the IMF was making available cheap money. I mean, when you take a loan from the IMF, you do not only pay for interest. There are currency differences. $1 yesterday was about 16 rand 50 cents. So, and as you have a floating currency that can depreciate, that debt can increase even if you received it at a low interest rate. We warned government about that, and our government has to adopt a decisive stance, and that stance will have to be a stance that explores all available domestic resources, because at the end of the day, the loans from the IMF and other international financial institutions will have to be paid back. It is not a favor. It was obvious from the beginning that the IMF will grant South Africa the loan if South Africa approached the IMF. So it is not victory whatsoever. It is a long-term commitment that is binding to the current generation of South Africans as well as future generations until it is paid back in full with interest. So what is required for us is to advance what the SACP refers to as structural economic transformation, not these economic reforms from the OECD, which seeks to weaken the role of the state and public participation in the economy in favor of the so-called private sector competition and participation, meaning in favor of profit making instead of empowering the masses of the people. So unless we empower the masses of the people, overcome the crisis of unemployment, the crisis of poverty, the crisis of inequality, and ensure that our economy stands on its feet, we are going to find it very difficult to pay back the loans plus interest and to support our national development imperatives.
Alex Mashilo, SACP National Spokesperson, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon. And we apologize for the signal issues that meant part of our interviews were a bit distorted. Now, business